All right. Welcome back, everybody. Today we have some exciting folks on with us today. We have Juliano Silva, and we also have Winston Template, two amazing people. So I want to get into some conversations with them. Winston and Juliano, welcome to Dirty Boots Capital.
Hey,
Thank
Tony,
you for
welcome. It's a
inviting us.
pleasure.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited to have you guys here. So I want to jump right in. I have 4 issues I want to talk about right out of the gate. First one, you guys are both content creators. You guys are super smart in a lot of different areas. We're hearing a lot about ChatGPT. Juliano, ChatGPT, good or bad? Who's the winners? Who's the losers and all of that?
Good. So the losers are people who don't really want to change because I think society is going to go through a behavioral change with ChatGPT. It's going to be mind blowing, kind of mind blowing actually. And I wouldn't limit to just ChatGPT. I would say AI in general. It's going to change how we live our lives. And it's already happening if you think about it, with Tesla and some other technology that's been out there. So ChatGPT is just the latest one, and the buzz is around it right now. But yeah, that's what I think. So anybody who's just doesn't really want to grow or change, it's going to be in trouble in the future, especially when it comes to career and how you see, your profession and stuff like that.
No, you're spot on. Winston, what do you think?
Well, I think the biggest losers are going to be any educated people out there, because now somebody with a very minute ability to process what's going on in the world can easily speak it into existence and become an expert in any field, which I think is a bad place for our country to be. As we watch different people that are they have a huge presence on social media, but yet they don't really have the knowledge to back up what they say they can do. So then you got people out there that really don't understand the situations of different things going on, giving us input based off of what they're getting off of ChatGPT or something like that. I know that I have a content provider. He uses ChatGPT a lot. He looks like an absolute expert. Doesn't make him an expert. It just means that that's what he does. And if he can do that, then anybody in the country can do it. Anybody in the world can do it. And I'm a little bit concerned about it. I think that it will make our kids, I got 2 kids in college, I think it'll make our kids dumber, because now they're going to be able to process a lot of data for school events. Now, I guess you do it in the real world too. It just makes them where they don't have to think as much for themselves to be successful. They don't have to process through difficult things. They don't have to learn how to find the correct information. I love it. I love the ChatGPT. I love it, but I do think that there's a lot of dangers for our country, for our society as they grow up, that they just don't learn the things that they need to learn.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just making us, I talk a lot about strengthening our critical thinking muscle, to take a look at what's happening in the world, or to be able to read an article and critically think about it, and to say what is right, what is wrong, where is truth in that article. And I think you're right, Winston, in terms of ChatGPT making us weaker as far as our critical thinking muscle. And then I also agree on the education front. Folks who are, and Juliano, you touched on this too, folks who are getting educated, not only today, but people who are educated, who have bachelor's and master's degrees. Some of that work could potentially be taken away by this artificial intelligence. So
well, I got a question for you. How much time did it take you to write your book?
My book, probably research in total about 4 years. Digging in, learning, right? Because I was essentially starting from ground zero with a lot of that. I knew the real estate piece well because I was doing that for 20 years. But the macro piece and how things did not work well really had me confused. So I was really starting at ground zero with a lot of the macro. So it took me about 4 years in total, researching the book behind the scenes, and then actually writing the book. Took about 4 years. So
if you was to use ChatGPT on that, if you was to use that, would that how fast would you write that book today?
6 months at the most. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing either.
So I think this is where it goes back. Everybody needs to exercise that critical thinking muscle to say, how does this artificial intelligence help me or hurt me? Is this going to take my job away? Is this going to help me at my job? And if you're a content creator, like we're all content creators, we like educating, we like getting information out to folks. I think for folks like us who are pushing education and content out there, I think it's going to help us.
Absolutely.
But a lot of folks who are just doing, repetitive tasks, I think it's going to hurt them because this AI could take over some of that. Just simply take a look at lawyers, right? Attorneys who are writing contracts on a day-to-day basis. This artificial intelligence at some point will get so sophisticated, it's going to be able to write those contracts for real estate, for divorce law, whatever it is, that it'll be able to do, maybe not 100%, but 80% of that contract. And then the last 20%, a human being will need to go through and correct certain things on the last 20%. But 80% of the work is going to be done by AI for an attorney in some cases. So this isn't going to get by, without impacting a lot of people.
When you were talking about, technologies in general, one thing that came to mind was, when I was growing up as a kid, I didn't really watch a lot of TVs. It was not a thing that my parents didn't really enjoy or liked about, having their kids watching TV. So it wasn't a thing that we did a lot, because in their minds back in the day, a TV was just, it was bad. There's bad things in TVs. So my point being is, and I think it's still true today. So I don't watch a lot of TVs like still today, to this date, other than sports. Sometimes I watch football, but with any emerging technology, there's always going to be side effects to the technology itself and how that impacts the world and the people surrounding that technology or using the technology. If you think about the iPhone, right, or the cell phone, let's go back to the cell phone. That's the cell phone. I remember my dad used to have a brick. Like the thing was a brick. You can just throw it at someone and just kill someone with the thing, right? And that was life changing. Being able to speak and remotely and walking was life changing, right? And but there were drawbacks to that as well, right? Just like with the iPhone. Now we're sort of like attached to the phone, right? If you look at the statistics today, I don't know, we on average we spend 9 hours looking at a phone every day. It's insanity, right?
Yeah.
I think that with the same thing with the AI, there's going to be some side effects to it, like Winston was saying. There's the good and the bad, but it's really up to us to be wise about how we use the technology, right? So one thing that I was talking to my wife about it was, going back to Winston's point of his producer uses ChatGPT quite a bit, and I use it too, but sometimes I choose not to because I want to force my mind to work in a certain way. I want to have those neurons working in some aspect of my life. So I tend not to use it heavily unless I'm doing like critical research. But it's becoming like this massive, powerful tool if you think about it today, right? And like ChatGPT, it's gotten to a point where you can take a picture of a layout on a piece of paper and it can produce a website for you with images and everything for you. So it's gotten to a point where that's the version 4. So the version 4 is exponentially more powerful than the version 3. I just think that we as society and human beings, we have to be wise and be careful about how we use any technology, right? So yeah.
And that's the purpose of creating this content here, right? This YouTube video, to get out to as many people as we can, to be able to say, we don't know where it's headed. There absolutely is some goodness in this, but there's also some badness associated with it. Each and every person that we touch that hears this needs to be thinking about, how does this impact me, right? There's a lot to it, and it's going to keep getting better and better, just like you're saying, Juliano. So we're not going backwards. This isn't going away, right?
No.
I think everybody knows that. So, all right. So that was good discussion. Thank you very much, guys. Second topic I want to talk about is central bank digital currencies and BRICS. There's a lot of moving parts there. Winston, why don't you kick us off? What do you think is happening with both of those?
Well, I do believe that we are heading in a direction that we will have a central bank digital currency in our own country. I don't think there's any way to stop it right now. It may be sometime this year, it may be next year, but I believe it's coming. Now, the BRICS nation, that's a whole different story. You look at our government, they just went up to $886 billion for defense budget. So they increased that by $69 billion this year from what they planned on having this year. The Biden administration came out here recently and said that they would not allow, China and Russia and Saudi Arabia are all wanting to do their oil trades in Yuan. So they're saying that the United States is coming out saying they're not going to allow that to happen. So what's the choice with that? We're going to go to war over that? Is that the next move that our country is going to do? We're going to create a World War III over somebody else wanting to trade oil, which is, if they do trade oil, we all know that that's going to destroy the value of the American dollar. It's going to cripple our country, I believe. I think when it cripples our country and when we experience that, they just print more money. Or if they got a central bank currency, digital currency, they don't have to print anything. They can just bring it into existence and the people don't even know what's happening.
Yeah, I think there's
on target, off target. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there. I mean, when the United States put sanctions on Russia and didn't allow them to pull their money out of banks, we did that in order to hobble Russia in terms of their invasion of the Ukraine. So we placed those sanctions on them, and I think a lot of countries, rightfully so, kind of looked around and said, "What if the United States does that to us, right? And put sanctions on France because we don't like what they're doing, or Egypt because we don't like what whoever it may be." I think a lot of countries took notice and they looked around and they say, do we really want to be tied to the US dollar? And so, yeah, this whole BRICS thing does gain some momentum from just that one aspect. There's a ton of different aspects.
Well, Saudi Arabia was such an ally to the United States. But when we pulled out of Afghanistan like we did, and we pretty much just said, to hell with all your people, we're pulling out and we don't care what the consequences are. And that's what's coming out whenever the military is talking about it in front of the Senate and stuff. I mean, we gave no forethought to anybody other than we're pulling out because we said we were pulling out and we didn't care who it affected. Who is going to trust us? What country out there is going to trust the United States of America?
Yeah.
If that is our response, I don't understand it.
Yeah, good point. Giuliano, what do you think? Central bank digital currencies and BRICS?
Central bank. I agree with Winston. I do think that there's gonna be some sort of a digital currency by the central bank in here in the United States. I don't know when, but I think it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Technology, the blockchain technology is revolutionary in so many different ways that I don't see the United States not leveraging it. It's a way of leverage. That's how I see it. BRICS nation. So this is interesting because I was born in Brazil, so I'm actually part of the BRICS nation.
Uh-oh. We probably should have vetted that before we started recording this.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
No,
so
it's good because we get your perspective. Because
right. I do. So I'm going to speak very specifically about the Brazil and South America because that's where I'm close. Let me put it this way: it's going to take a while for these emerging countries in isolation to become really as powerful as people are painting the picture, like saying they're going to be. I may not see that in my lifetime, but them combined, yes, they might have more power. But specifically in Brazil, though, I think Brazil and South America is going through a challenge of socialism. This is not new. I want to emphasize this: it's not new. It's been there for a while. When you look at the laws and how the government is structured within the country, it's not really structured in a way that's gonna set the country for success. Because the socialism is so embedded in the system that it's really hard to get out of it. In my view, in order for a country to become financially or close to some sort of a power nation in terms of GDP and all that stuff, it does require the country to be a little bit more libertarian, if you will, and less socialist. So I have my doubts in how that's gonna play out for South America, and I also have concerns because I don't think it's getting better. It's not getting better, and I'm gonna just tell you one example. Like in Brazil, most kids who go to college, their number one career aspiration is to work for the government. And you know why? Because they pay the most and you do the least. And that's the majority of the country. Okay, not every kid, but I want to say somewhere, I'm gonna throw a number, but somewhere between 70 and 80% of the kids in college, they aspire to work for the government because it's secure, you get paid a lot of money, and you don't really work a lot. I know people.
Was it like that, say 20 or 30 years ago though, or has it gotten worse?
It was, I think it's gone worse. It was like that, yes, 15, 20 years ago. Um, it got a little better, or at least we were hopeful in the past few years, but I don't know if it's going to change because it's, whoever comes in as a president is going to really have a hard time changing that because it's embedded in our system. So, and then there's a layer of corruption. I don't know. I'm not too bought into the idea of the BRICS nation just becoming, so powerful, and maybe they will collectively.
Yeah.
But
do you think Juliano, how much damage can they do if they just switch the basis of just the oil production away from the American dollar to the Chinese yuan? How much damage would that do?
That would do a lot of damage to the dollar, to the dollar and to us. I think. I still have to, like, I don't know what the benefit would be for example, Brazil to do that today. What would they gain? Like, what would be the, you know what I mean?
Sometimes the benefit may just be just to punish the United States for some of the actions we've taken, some of the things that we've done over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
and maybe that's petty. I don't know.
No, I mean, it's so intertwined, and this is why we're here talking about it, because we want to, try to help folks see how convoluted this is and how important it is for, just average folks, the everyday Americans, which I think all three of us are. We're not highfalutin, we're not the elite. We're just looking at this, trying to figure out how this impacts us. And I agree that I don't think we're going to see, like Juliano, you were saying, you don't think we're going to see BRICS in our lifetime or in your lifetime. I agree with that. I don't think we're there yet for BRICS. I don't think we're going to see it. I think maybe the next generation will see it. But I think, to your point, there is still a lot of corruption with Brazil, China, Russia. Would you really want to hitch your wagon to those countries? Probably not. Not yet, anyway. They got a lot of work to do to clean up their act.
Yes.
Clean up, their corruption in their society. So I don't see BRICS coming first. I see central bank digital currency happening before BRICS for sure.
I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that. But you talk about their corruption. I don't know if their corruption is any worse than the corruption we have in our very own country. I mean, the corruption is rampant in the United States right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Winston. I guess the best way to say that is we are the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry pile. I think.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Okay, because I'm with you, Winston. It's hard to quantify corruption. I've never tried to do that in my life, but
we'll save that for another episode.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts. I think much like artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, there are going to be winners and losers. And same with central bank digital currency, what it sounds like all three of us are on the same page. We think that's going to take hold before BRICS takes hold. So we got to all look about ourselves and say, how does central bank digital currencies impact me? Everybody needs to assess that for themselves and do some reading and do some education and do some watching of some great YouTube videos. There's plenty out there. Try to see how that impacts you. Next topic, one that I know both of you are intimate with, and that's real estate. You guys are very well educated on real estate. Juliano, we'll start with you. Real estate, is it headed higher or lower?
Ooh, I'm gonna go higher.
Higher. Why?
Now you have to. I'm gonna rephrase our friend Jason Hartman, right? Compared to what?
Yes, very important. Very important.
Eggs might be outpacing it.
Yeah, but also, in what time horizon are you talking about, right? Real estate to me is, I don't look at it as a short-term thing, right? So I'm looking at a long-term horizon, and to me, it's gonna go higher. Now, if your question is more directed to like what's happening right now in the economy, and with interest rates being higher and all that stuff, I don't think it's gonna drop as much as people have been talking about it. Now, it may not go high which I think it will go high, but consistently high. It's not going to be this cyclical thing going like spiking up. And that's just my perspective. The real estate has been really resilient if you think about it in the past 2 years. Really resilient, right? I've been reading articles and articles that recession, real estate is going to go down, blah blah blah. It has not been proven. The media has been wrong maybe 100% of the time this time. So I'm optimistic. When you also look at the geography and demographics and stuff like that, it's going to go higher because the more people are renting right now than ever, and that trend with interest rates higher, it doesn't tend to come down. It tends to go up. I vote high.
Okay, but before so I believe a lot of what you said there. And before I give my opinion, Winston, why don't you weigh in? Real estate going higher or lower?
It's going higher. As long as our country is going to continue to print money, and we just promised Ukraine another $40 billion, $45 billion that we're going to print. We're now doing reparations. We're going to print for that. We're going to print for this. I mean, we're printing money like crazy. So every time we print money, then the dollars that we have in our pocket are going to go down in value because they're going to depreciate. Every time the dollar in my pocket goes down in value as it depreciates, the money I have that's invested in an appreciating asset like real estate is going to go up. And throughout history, or for the last 50 years at least, real estate has appreciated at an average of about 5%. But if you look at the last 10 years, it's over 10% that has appreciated over the last 10 years. If you look over the last 5 years, it's probably closer to 15%, 20%. And that number keeps changing because we've gotten on a roller coaster, and we're going down this hill on a roller coaster as fast as it's going to go, printing money, which is going to continue to cause our assets to appreciate. I mean, in 2022, I was making a little bit over $1,000 an hour every hour of the day for 365 days of that year in appreciation alone of my property. That is the spans where the rich is becoming richer and the poor is becoming poorer, or the middle class is becoming poor. The poor is just where they were. They don't really care. But we are sucking the life out of the middle class in our country by printing the money like we're printing the money. I don't think I've listened to people say, well, real estate has dropped. The price of real estate has dropped. The price of real estate, at least in my area, in Tennessee, the price of real estate has not dropped. What has dropped is people are no longer willing to give $100,000 over asking price, but they're willing to give what that property is worth, and it's still worth the same thing it was worth a year ago, but it's not worth $100,000 more to them. So that's my take on it, at least.
Yeah, no, great summary there, Winston. So I believe I agree with both of you guys. I believe it is going higher. I think, Juliano, you hit the nail on the head. You got to look at the time horizon that we're talking about here. Over the next year or two, we have to watch for signals in terms of a recession and how long that recession might be or how deep a recession may be. But knowing our time horizon, me and both of you, our time horizon is 10 years, 20 years. When you have a long time horizon like that, and I share it with folks that I coach, when you have that sort of time horizon of 10 years, 20 years, it's going to be higher at the end of that time horizon. I think there's going to be opportunities in the next, 1, possibly 2 years where we might see some pullback. But again, I agree with you, Juliano, from the standpoint of there's a ton of money sitting on the sidelines, cash sitting on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the prices are going to dip substantially. I don't think it's going to be a 40 or a 50% correction. I do not see that. And the reason why I said, because I have data points, right? I have a gentleman I'm working with. He has $20 million sitting on the sidelines waiting to buy real estate, when it's ready for him to buy it, right? I work with a family office out of New York City. They have, high net worth families with money sitting on a sideline waiting to buy at the right time. It's not quite there yet, but when it is, they will swoop in, they will buy real estate, and those prices will not go down 40 or 50%. I don't believe. I think they may go down maybe 10, maybe. But I think those families are going to come in, they're going to swoop it up because, again, like us, they have a long time horizon of 10 to 15, 20 years. So they're buying for the long term. We see this, Winston, to your point, inflation taking hold, right? Money being printed each and every day. So those valuations are just going to go up as a result. And actually, Yeah, go
So
ahead.
3 weeks ago, I had to go to an attorney's office in downtown Nashville. Obviously, I was not in a position to see the whole city, but as him and I were sitting there looking out the window, we counted 23 cranes on the ground, building high-rise buildings in downtown Nashville, and every one of them were moving. The institutional money's coming in, and different things like that, or people are investing. I mean, they aren't slowing down. I mean, they're moving forward, and I would think that if the industry was thinking there was going to be a big crash or a big adjustment, that they would be stopping on the production or stopping on the construction. This is brand new buildings coming out of the ground and all. I mean, it's not something they got halfway built and they need to finish it. So there's still a ton of money flowing into the markets.
Yeah. So the message for the viewers, here's 3 guys and a whole bunch of other folks out there seeing real estate heading higher. I think you got to look at your short-term and your long-term time horizon, but any last sound bites on that?
Yeah, just one thing that I wanted to add, and I want to make sure people understand is, the media has a tendency to bucket real estate in one bucket, and then they put out numbers, and then they say stuff that it's coming down or it's down, whatever, right? First of all, real estate is not like an index fund that you just you wait until it goes up. It's just one thing. It's not. Real estate is very local, and even within a locale, you have to look at what parts of that location, what does the data says, right? What parts of that location the real estate performs, and how does it differ from one another, right? My point being is, look at your locale, like your location, and look at the best locations versus the worst locations, and look at inventory. Because if you look at inventory today, not everywhere, there are, like, I mean, I'm heavily invested in Florida. Good parts in Florida, they are not coming down at all, and inventory is still low. It's very low. And anytime a property goes on sale, there's still like 5 to 6 offers. It's incredible. So it's really based, you have to look at real estate as location and how that impacts your portfolio or your purchase or your investments. One thing that I really learned from Jason early on was, just diversifying markets, because you hedge against the different locations, because they're not all the same. And we actually experienced that ourselves. We had properties in Minnesota, North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee. The performance of our properties in Minnesota, or actually in Florida, was drastically different than Minnesota, meaning higher. Florida performed much better, and so did North Carolina. And thirdly was Tennessee. I guess my point for the viewers is just make sure you understand where you're buying. Look at the data, what the data says. You go based on that. Don't go based on the media and what they're saying about real estate just going down.
Absolutely. Great points. The media tends to be fairmongers. They like to sensationalize things, and you're absolutely right, Juliano. You gotta get down to the local market, see what's happening there. So very, very wise. Last issue I want to bring up: society. Right? Society. Where's society headed? We just had this terrible school shooting down in Tennessee, down in your neck of the woods, Winston. So I'm curious to get your perspective. But overall, I want to get your take on society. Are we trending better, or are we trending worse for society? What do you think, Winston?
So in my opinion, we're trending way worse. And you look at society, the world we grew up in, and pretty much truth was truth. I mean, people were who they were. People said what they thought. People tried, for the most part, to do what was right. In today's society, it seems like there is no right. There is no wrong. For people that do wrong, they're rewarded. They're not punished. I mean, we don't know what a man is anymore. We don't know what a woman is anymore. We can't define anything in the world. Kids can make their own gender selection when they're 4 years old, as far as our government is concerned. It seems to me, and I feel like our government wants us this in discord about everything, because it takes the focus off of what's going on in Washington, D.C. But I don't see anything good coming out of society right now. Not anything good. I don't want to say that, but I don't see everything as a positive thing. I mean, when we can't define what is right and what is wrong, when we can go into a riot and burn a city down, and the news media comes on and says it's a mostly peaceful process, when that's the world we live in, and there is no definitive truth to anything. Everything is from what you suspect. And I see it as destruction, a moral destruction of our whole country. And I'm extremely concerned about it personally.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I read an article just recently. I think it was the governor of Minnesota, I believe, just signed into law that every child, I think at the elementary school level, every child gets a free meal, free food, regardless of the income level of the parent. I do think maybe for some of those children, the government does need to step in and make sure that they're provided with at least one nutritious meal a day. But to be able to write into law that regardless of the income level of the family, the government is going to feed your kid. That's the government stepping in, overstepping its bounds, taking over for the parent to say, we are going to feed your kid regardless of how much money your family makes, right? Which I think is totally wrong. And it ends up trending society in a bad way, because now society, because they don't exercise their critical thinking muscle, now we have a huge amount of entitlement occurring where people feel entitled to say, well, yeah, the government is taking care of me. This governor is taking care of me. I'm going to vote for him next time. Good or bad, he's taking care of me, so I'm going to keep voting for him. And it's just a way that politicians buy votes. And society, again, because they're not exercising their critical thinking muscle, they vote in a certain way that does not help society trend into a positive way, but actually in a negative way. So there's a lot of nefarious stuff happening out there. All right, Juliano, why don't you give us your perspective? Society trending better or trending worse?
Ooh, this is probably the hardest question for me. I'm a young man. Well, I'd like to look at the data. I'd like to break down the data in terms of, okay, compared to what? Like I'm gonna rephrase Jason again, because I think there are aspects of our lives, of society, that have improved quite dramatically. But to Winston's point, there are also areas of our lives that they're in decline. And if it continues, I am personally worried about it. Right? This sense of entitlement is something that it concerns me quite a bit. Like to Winston's point, forgiveness is a good example. I had a lot of a few people in my Facebook feed saying, yeah, I paid my dad for college, but I don't mind the government coming in and paying for other people's debt. That's progress. And I'm like, no, that is not progress. That's not the point. Is not, okay, just because I paid for my own college debt, I don't want the government to pay for anybody else. That's not the point. The point is really, what is the government teaching people behaviorally that they're going to continue to do and have this sense of entitlement that, in my opinion, it's very, very concerning. So to me, that's the point. It's not really, I also paid for my own college debt, and I'm not against it because I paid for mine and that person has to pay for hers. No, I'm against it because I just don't think it's the right thing for us as society. Just like your point of food, right? Parents not having to, it's just the same thing. The sense of entitlement is gonna take us in a road that it's not really good, I don't think, because I grew up, when I came to this country, I really had to learn how to buy my food and work. If I didn't work, my car would be towed. I learned the value of working and working hard and going to school and working and bussing tables, and then as a bartender, as a waiter in Massachusetts while going to school to make trying to make ends meet but doing it. So I believe in hard working. I believe in integrity and hard working, and I think that if you do that, you will succeed eventually. So that's what concerns me, about society. But in some aspect, I think we have gotten better. My parents were here. We just had a baby recently, right? And we got into this argument of, because my parents, they tend to say, oh, before was always better. Before was always better. And I was like, well, dads in the past were not as helpful as dads today. And that was like, at least in my culture, it was just a fact, right? I wipe, I clean out my son's,
Yep.
just change Wyatt, like all the time, and I wipe his ass, and I do everything I need to do. But it wasn't like that when my parents were born. Like my dad never got down in the weeds of working hard. So I think we have to look at what's gotten better and what's gotten worse. But in general, I am concerned about the sense of entitlement that we're growing as a nation, as society.
Yeah.
So
Go
my
ahead.
concern on that, let me make a quick comment. My concern on that is the government doesn't make any money. All the government does is steal money from somebody else and give it to somebody else. And I don't see the point of the government taking money from, I'm gonna ask a quick question. Tony, did you pay any taxes last year?
No.
Juliano, did you pay any
Well,
taxes?
I should clarify. I should
Federal-
clarify,
federal
Winston.
taxes.
No federal taxes. I paid quite a bit in state property taxes, things like
Yes.
that.
Me too. So Juliana, how about you? Did you pay anything in federal income tax last year?
No.
Okay, so we're all three on the same boat. We pay our city taxes, we pay our county tax, we pay our sales tax when we go buy goods. But we don't pay taxes to the federal government because our government benefits us and they incentivize us to invest in things that they want us to invest in, and we get depreciation and things so that we don't have to pay taxes. The tax burden is on the middle class who is barely scraping by. So all of these entitlements that they keep wielding out is just destroying the middle class more and more and more. And the people who are bottom feeders are sucking the life out of the middle class, and they can't produce anymore. And I think that that's just from a society standpoint, we're what 140% basically at GDP right now of debt that we got to print next year because we can't spend, we don't have the money. And I mean, where are we heading with this kind of mentality as a society? We're gonna half of the country pays nothing.
Yeah, I think the perspective of the middle class, if you looked at it, you know, say 50 years ago, if you grew up in a middle class family 50 years ago, chances are you'd be labeled as middle class once you were an adult and you were working and you led a middle class lifestyle 50 years ago. I think we are in a time and place where there's a lot of adults with kids. Those adults are middle class, traditional middle class life. However, the next generation, their kids, to your point, Winston, they're going to be shackled, and they are not going to live a middle class life like their parents, and definitely not like their grandparents. It's definitely trending in the wrong direction. And this is where, again, I stress to folks, we have to use our critical thinking muscle, right? Where is this all going? Not believing just wholeheartedly what the politicians are feeding us or what the media is feeding us. There's a lot of fear mongering and there's a lot of propaganda in what the politicians are telling us. So we have to think about how this all impacts us. These are really important things. I mean, I didn't select these 4 topics just like willy-nilly out of the air. These are like super important things that are impacting us. And as the viewers can see, you know, Juliano came to this country. My parents were first generations American. I had to pay for myself to go to school. You know, I didn't come for money. I had to work hard. Winston, I know your backstory. You know, you were living in a trailer at one point with holes in the floor, and so I know where you came from. And you worked like a bastard to get to where you are today. We all 3 of us worked very hard from very, very humble beginnings to get where we are today. So if anything, we see it very clearly how society and government and these politicians are taking things in a very bad way. We are the freedom fighters today. We are the ones who want to help the middle class, to help people see, you know, these students, these young people see what's going on and wake up and flex that critical thinking muscle and see how some of these things are going to impact you in a negative way. With each one of these things, there's going to be winners and losers. You got to think, which end do I want to be on, and what do I need to do if I want to be a winner? For those viewers out there, you got to watch all those things. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with John McLaughlin. He used to have a news show. We're at the end of our recording here, but I wanted to shoot out some quick questions, and let's see how this goes. But John McLaughlin used to do a great thing on his News Hour show where he would shoot out real quick questions. And, you know, Juliano, I'd like you to answer quick, and Winston, you to answer quick in terms of these 4 things I have in front of me. So Chinese balloons, real or fake? Giuliano, what do you think?
Real.
Winston?
Fake mostly.
I don't know. There's a lot of propaganda out there. You know, we still don't know if aliens landed in Area 51. So there's a lot of there's a lot of unknown. All right, so we got one that believes they're real, another one that believes they're maybe fake. Okay, got it. Ukraine war, will it ever end? Winston?
No.
Giuliano?
No.
I tend to be in that camp. Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, I feel so bad for the Ukrainian people. This war is being used
propaganda
for propaganda and political agendas, and they are the tool. They are being weaponized, and it is so unfortunate for those poor people. So,
Well, Zelensky comes over to our country and he's like a football hero, a movie star, you know.
yeah. You know, we tend to have some short-term memory in certain circles in terms of all the corruption that Ukraine was part of, you know, for many, many years. We could go on for an hour just about the Ukraine. All right, gold prices. Juliano, heading higher or lower?
Okay, I'm not a gold guy, but I'm gonna say higher.
Okay, Winston.
I'm going to say higher, but not whatever. I don't believe it's going up to what everybody says it's going up to.
Yeah, me too. I don't.
Okay. I do think they are trending higher. Again, it's all about, we'll come back to time horizon, right? You know, in the next year or two, will they trend lower, maybe a little higher? You know, I think they're going to bobble around a little bit. But if you're talking 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road, I think they are higher in 15 to 20 years. It's all about the time horizon. So last one I have here, Xi Jinping and Putin, are they rivals or is it a long lost love affair? Juliano, what do you think?
Love affair.
Winston.
I'm going with the love affair also.
I think there's a lot of benefits for both of them in this new love affair that they're having for each other. There's the Belt and Road Initiative that China is pushing, and obviously Russia on a worldwide stage. Russia is in a really tough spot. So I do think it is a love affair that they have right now. So we'll see where it goes. Thank you, guys. I want to thank you both for being on. I think this has been great content, great information for the viewers out there. Juliano, if folks want to find you, where could they find you?
Yeah, so well, first of all, thanks Tony and thanks Winston for, you know, just the opportunity to be here. I'm a big fan of yours too. You guys are making change in the world, and that's all that matters. In fact, Winston has grown his channel quite dramatically. Like, it's impressive. Keep it up,
It's
man.
kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's gotten well. The content, it speaks for itself, right? Yeah. So if I can be found on either through my website, it's julianosilva.me, or Instagram, which is, so it's Juliano Moreira. It's Moreira. That's how I can be found.
Excellent. Thank you, Juliano. I appreciate you being on here. Very, very helpful. Winston, where can folks find you?
Okay. Well, again, same as Juliano, thank y'all so much for letting us come on here, because this has been a lot of fun and we need to do it again for sure. Really enjoyable. But you can find me at Real Estate Template, just Real Estate Template, TEMPLET. And that's my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube channel. All of that is the same. And you can email me at wt@winstontemplate.com or at wt.realestatetemplate.com.
Excellent.
But it's been kind of cool. It's been a fun ride starting the media, the channels we started them in January, and they've done well. So we've enjoyed it.
For the viewers, go find these guys. You'll do yourself an immense favor. They put out great content. They are sharing their personal stories. They are there helping people. They have no hidden agenda. They are not making money off of this. They are trying to help people. That's it. First and foremost, that's what they're doing. So go out, find them, subscribe to them, and you won't be sorry. So we appreciate you watching. Take care of each other. Have a great day.
Thank you again.
Take care.